Welcome back to the Oddpile YouTube channel. Today I want to do a market watch on the Rolex GMT Master II 16710. This watch has long been on my list of grails that I want to acquire, and I think I'm getting pretty close to it, maybe in like the next year or 2 years. And I want to do a bit of a market watch because this watch, since it's been on the Rolex catalog for so long, from 1989 to 2007, it has seen a lot of nuances throughout the years, from the font that it has on the bezel, to the lume being used on the dial, to holes versus no hole case, solid end link versus hollow end link, and a lot of different things like that. So I want to do a market watch to see where each of these nuances currently sit on the price range to inform both myself and you as my viewer, if you're in the market for this watch, to see what you should be paying for it and how much you should budget for it, because let's be real, it is quite an expensive watch. So with that being said, let's get right into it. After our quick wristwatch check, I'm wearing the Tudor 79260 Prince Chrono, still one of my absolute favorite watches. Just so good looking, so neo vintage, you know what I'm saying? All right, let's see. The first watch, we're going to be going on Chrono 24 here. We are going to be sorting from low to high and filtering by results in Japan only. The reason being that I am planning a Japan trip coming up in the next couple of months, so these are the watches that I would most likely be interacting with in person if I do decide to go check them out. And also that most of these watches being sold from Japan are either being carried by pawn shops or secondhand stores. So the quality of the photos are a lot better compared to the private sellers, the private owners who might be using the front camera, the crystal smudged up, the camera smudged up, all sorts of things. You guys get the idea. And also the description for the Japan watches are usually a lot more full and in-depth as well. They'll tell you what the condition is, they'll tell you what serial the watch is in, what year they think it was made in, so on and so forth. Let's get into it. This is the first watch we're looking at, this Rolex GMT Master II from 1997. It, as you can see, has quite a beat up bezel. It looks like there's been, I don't know if this is markings or like acid dots on it, but yeah, it is, and it's got chips on it too. So I think that this is definitely one of the cheapest ones for a reason, coming in at just over $12,500 Canadian. For me, if I was buying one of these, I don't really mind the bezel being beat up, because if I wear it for a prolonged period of time, I know the whole thing's gonna get faded and pretty beat as well. So I am more so looking at like how the polishing is, how the overall conditions are, if the fonts on the bezel, which this one seems to be a serif font. This one, by the way, has a Luminova dial, which means it was made between 1997 to 1998, which checks out because they say it's a 1997 piece. Serif fonts on the bezel, which means that it was made before 2002, checks out as well. And overall, the dial looks pretty crispy. Let's take a closer look at the bezel. So definitely some wear on the edges of it as well. Like you can tell, this one is chipped pretty, well, not chipped, but like it's almost like sanded off. So something happened here. And the case of the watch, in contrast, is brushed and polished pretty nicely. So they definitely took a lot of metal off this case. You can see here on the holes case that the edges are rounded in, so that's not a good sign. That means they took a lot of metal off of this watch. Yeah, like you can see the case flank is kind of rounded already. So if I was gonna pick one up, I don't think this is the one that I would get, simply just because like it's being polished a little too much for my preference. Still a very gorgeous piece. It's too bad though, because that bezel, despite all the flaws that it has, is in a nice color. I really like that crimson red compared to the more, I don't know what to call it, like more artificial red? I don't know, like I'm thinking about food colorings. You can see that there's been chips on the case back, but they definitely buffed it out because it is quite uneven. Let's see what the description says. Rank B, slight damage on everything, no bezel scratches. Oh no, not slightly, so it is quite severe, I would guess. And this is, what serial is this? Does it say? U serial. So U serial is dated in 1997. Okay, cool, okay. So U serial, bezel's beat, the case is polished way beyond its tolerance. But everything seems to be original. It is a 1997 piece, so that's around the time when they first rolled out the Luminova dial. The hands is in the same color as the dial. $12,500 is the final price. I will note that down. And let's move on to the next GMT Master II that we will be looking at. There's one here. This is actually from Canada. So even though I'm only really interested in Japan pieces, let's take a quick look at this. Right away, it is kind of interesting. It's got a look like acrylic glass because you can see beading on it. The bezel is also sans serif, which is very interesting because the dial is a tritium dial, and the hands are definitely replaced as well because you can see the fading on the dial doesn't match the color of the hand. Holds case, quite warm. And yeah, you can see that crystal is definitely a acrylic crystal. What's going on here? What is going on here? Let's see what the description says. Family member bought for another family member in 1987. That's 2 years before the Rolex 16710 was released. So this is probably the 16700, which it kind of makes sense, but I don't know. Interesting. Okay, let's move on to the next one. This is not a 16710. Here is the next one. So this one right away you can see has a more faded red side of the bezel. Uneven fading, which to me adds to the character because again, I know that when I wear this watch throughout the many years that I will be having it for, it will definitely get worse than this. So any sort of bezel that has wear fading on it, unless it has just serious dents or cracks, helps out in my favor since it will drive the price down, and as long as it's not too overly polished, which you can't really tell from this angle just yet. It is a Swiss-made dial, so Super Luminova must be after 1998. However, it still has the serif for the font on the bezel, which dates it prior to 2002. So right now we're looking at 1998 to 2002. Let's look at the next picture. You can see some scratches on the bezel. Okay, nothing out of the ordinary here. The case flank looks very clean, definitely has been polished, but you can see here on the holes case, it's not too severely done in, which is always a good sign. You can't really tell though if it has been, it just looks like it hasn't been. If that even makes sense. The one thing that I'm catching and I'm very curious is that the end links, solid end links, but prior to 2002, that is very curious. Let's look at the back. Stamped clasp. Yeah, look at that. Like, this is a sign of a solid end link. 787908. That's what's engraved on the bracelet. Interesting. Comes with box, guarantee card, though I don't think it comes with any papers. Otherwise, it would be shown. Let's see what the description says. Case serial. So case serial is between 2000 to 2004, which dates is now between 2000 to 2002. Oh, it actually says here, year of production, 2001, approximation. Makes sense. -5 to +15 seconds. It was overhauled in February 2002, not by RSC, but by a private individual. There's scratches and fading on the bezel, yep. Fine scratches on the case, okay. So now we have a case serial, solid end links. The bezel is serif, it's period correct. The hands and dial is all period correct. And this is selling for 13,000, I would say about 13,300 Canadian dollars, which is a pretty good overall package, at least for me. Like, I wouldn't mind going to Japan and checking this watch out in person. I will definitely have to see how the polishing feels in my hand, whether too much metal has been taken off, but just from the photos, just from what the description tells me, I definitely think this is a very solid package that we're looking at here. One interesting thing I want to know is that if you look at the end link here, it is sitting a little lower than where the case is. So I wonder if that's because the end links has been polished more than they should have, or maybe because the holes are like they got stretched bigger than they originally was. So the end links are sitting like, you know, they're like kind of falling down a little bit. I don't know. That's yeah, I definitely will have to check this out in person. Let's move on to the third piece. So this one's coming in at just under 13.5 as well. And right away you can tell that it has a tritium dial, T less than 25. The bezel is quite faded. It is a serif font as well, you can tell by the floor. This package here, the dial and the bezel seems to be period correct, but then the hands are very bright. They're very white. So I think the hands have been replaced by RSC and our service hands. Let's look at, oh, there's not a lot of pictures here. How do I feel about this? I don't know if I'll be okay looking down on my wrist and seeing that the hands are a crisp white, but both the dial and the bezel are quite faded and beat. Okay, you can see from the case flank that it is quite polished as well. These GMT Master II 16710s aren't supposed to have a rounded case flank. It's just supposed to be sitting slab dab, like right down, like kind of like the Black Bay 58, how it's just like all the way down on the side. So if you see any sort of rounding on the case flank, that is not a good sign. Okay, this one I'm just gonna pass on. Let me look at the description very quickly here. Doesn't say the year and doesn't say the serial number. Okay, let's go back. So far we are 1 for 3. There's one 16710 out of 3 that we checked out that I would actually consider going in person and think about picking up. Next one, there's one from Singapore. This one's coming in at 13,800. I'm gonna take a quick look. Year of production 2005, no box, no papers, definitely taken by someone who seems like they're a photographer. Is this by a private owner or a shop? This is by a shop, professional dealer. Okay, interesting. All right, let's take a look at it. So 2005, first of all, Swiss made. This is a super luminova dial, which means it's gonna have a much stronger glow. The bezel is a serif font bezel, which checks out. It could either be an original or replacement. Serif bezels are made after the year 2002, so this is way after that. The hands all look very crispy and white. The end links look like they are solid. If you look at here, yeah, like you can see this little protruding part from the end link that it is solid. Okay. I feel like the teeth of the bezel aren't as sharp as the previous ones. The case flank looks fine. No severe rounding, but again, you can only tell that it's not being over polished, but you can't confirm whether it's being over polished. No holes case, makes sense. I guess by 2005, a lot of the watch has already been finalized. Like all of the evolutions throughout the years have landed us at this point. So we're looking for whether there are any parts that are older than the watch actually should be. Yeah, pretty good looking piece. Let's see what the description says. Fully serviced in-house, July 2024. Wow, that's this month. Estimated 2005. This is a D serial, which makes sense. 1 year warranty. Okay, yeah. I mean, this is I would add this to the list. Right now we are 2 for 4 for the watch that we actually pick up. Let's move on to the next one. There's one in the US. This is a black bezel version. Our first black bezel, interesting. The bezel is quite beat. It is sans serif. It is super luminova, because Swiss made. The dial and the hands all check out. The end link looks like it is solid as well. So 2002, okay, so this is when they first introduced the sans serif font on the bezel. You can tell it's a Holst case as well, which Holst cases were phased out in 2003, so I would guess this is either a 2002 or 2003 model. And what am I talking about here? It says right here, 2002 year of production. Okay, so this all checks out. The lug looks like it's a little bit rounded. The edges aren't very sharp. The case flank, you can see that this one has been rounded, unfortunately. Okay, that just, I think that took it off the consideration set. But if it wasn't for that, it would be a really good looking watch. Like, yeah, you can see the clasp here has had dents on it before and they buffed it out, so the dents aren't as sharp anymore. We'll go through the rest of the pictures here quickly. And the description says 100% genuine, blah, blah, blah. All right, not really saying much here, are we? Okay, let's go back to another one. This is from US as well. So this is serif bezel, super luminova on the dial, which dates it between 1998 to 2002 in that range. Let's see what the case looks like. It is a Holst case as well. Year of production says here 2002. No box, no papers. Oh wow, what's happening on the case flank? Oh, has this not been polished before? It is quite beat, but looks like there's some rounding on the bottom right side here. Case flank, this side looks pretty sharp. Definitely has signs of wear, which to me is a very healthy sign because it means that it hasn't probably been to the shop to get polished, at least not all that much. Oh wow, okay. Damn, that is a good looking piece. I still haven't decided if I would consider a black bezeled variation just because I love that pop of red so much, but this is definitely, I think this is the best package so far. Like everything is original. Oh, there's a big ding on the lug. Maybe that's why the other photo looks like it's been rounded when in reality it's just there's a huge dent in it. I don't mind this so much. Like you can definitely see it, but I don't think it's that big of an issue. Definitely helps bring the price down as well. Yeah, I would definitely say this is the best package so far. Oh, that is so beautiful. You can see from that case back that it's not been polished before. Or if it has been, at least they've done a wonderful job. Look at how crisp that is. Damn. Not a lot of sagging as well. Nice. White cereal it looks like. The description says mild surface wear on bezel, a couple micro dust particles under glass. Huh, that is interesting. Tiny bites on the bezel outer metal ring, moderate surface scratch. How did the coin edge bezel look? It's not too bad. It's still pretty sharp. Okay, yeah. Let's do two more. And this time I want to look at one with a Pepsi bezel. So the listing says that this one is from 1990 from Italy. Right away you can tell something's going on with the bezel because it is a sans serif bezel on a tritium dial. Interesting. Let's take a closer look at this watch. There seems to be quite a lot of rounding on the bracelet links and also the lugs, which is not a good sign. Maybe that's just the camera work though. Yeah, this is why I like looking at listings from Japan because they're a lot more pronounced than these type of photos. Hollow end links. Okay, so I guess just the bezel is replaced. Interesting. You can't really tell too much. Oh my god, they also opened it up. They got someone to service it. Is this how the rotor is supposed to look? Because don't Rolex write their name on the rotor? 3185 Rolex movement. Let's see what this movement is supposed to be. Yeah. I don't know if that is original. Like this looks like it has a lot of fading. It's almost a different metal than what the originals use. It's got the 3 screws, that's correct. Interesting. Okay. Well, yeah. This one I would run away very far. I don't know what's going on with this piece. Let's move on. Let's move on. We'll do 2 more. I'm gonna cherry pick a little here. I do have a planned trip to Japan coming up in the next few months, so I will be looking at a few more Japanese models. So this one is a 1997 model. The bezel is serif font. The dial is Luminova. Wow, this one is beautiful. A little bit of rounding on the lugs, which is unfortunate. Let me look at other pictures. That's a very even fade on the bezel. I know I said I don't care about the bezel, but this is quite a nice looking bezel. Okay, clamshell clasp, hollow end links. The case back looks like it has been polished before, but not too severely. A little bit of stretch on the bracelet. This one here looks like, how does that even happen? The metal is bent? What? Maybe there was corrosion? What's going on here? Let's look at the description to see if it tells us anything. The glass says it has a crack. Interesting. I didn't see any cracks. Okay, slightly scratched, minor scratches. Oh, but this one does come with papers. I think this is the first one that we've seen that comes with papers, so maybe that's why it's very close to 14.5. $1,000 more for the paper. Huh. Okay, let's move on to the next one. I think that one would be a pass just because there's so many looming issues that, although it's not in the pictures exactly, it's kind of insinuated throughout the listing, and also some of the pictures just weren't all that convincing. This one here is no box, no papers, 14.4 with the black bezel. The bezel is sans serif. The dial is super luminova. Holz case, so probably 2002, 2003, and wow, that is a sharp looking case flank. God damn, that looks good. Look at that case profile, man. Oh my god, I want this watch now. Let's look at this side. It's very clean as well. There's definitely some rounding you can see on the side of the links here, but not terribly so. Or maybe the photo is just very convincing. The case flank looks pretty good, but the links definitely look like there's some rounding going on with them. So I would say decently polished, not too badly, but also definitely not in the ideal condition. It says it's a K serial, which dates it between 2000 to 2004. The bezel is sans serif, so that means it must be later than 2002. So now we're looking at 02 to 04. Decent, but definitely not in the best condition. And the price is definitely not one of the best. So I think we've reached that point of looking at the listings where we are starting to look at repeated products, if you can call it that, but just priced a little higher. I'm gonna see if I can do one more listing to find anything new before we conclude our market watch here. The next one that we will be looking at, let's look at this one. This is a Pepsi Bezel GMT Master II from Japan as well. It's got quite an evenly faded serif font bezel on a superluminova dial, year production 2001. The hands, the dial looks pretty good. The crown guards look pretty clean. Pretty good looking watch. The endings are solid as well. Ooh, some polishing on the case flanks, as you can see here. Not terribly so though. Like it definitely has been sharpened up a little bit. There's a bit of rounding on the clasp and the last link. Oh, it's so hard to find a non-polished watch from Japan. Like these guys love polishing their watches. Okay, I think I'll conclude this video here. We've gone through a lot of different watches, from a black bezel one to a Coke to Pepsi's. Looks like Pepsi is probably the slightly more desired model because we haven't seen many in the sort by lowest price range. I think we've seen 2 of them that piqued my interest. Definitely it is in a good position to be picked up right now because, as you guys know, the watch market hasn't been doing all that great in the past couple of years. It peaked at what seems to be 21 to 22,000 Canadian dollars, and right now the average seems to be around the $17,000 mark, which for us, like I know we've been looking at the $13,000 to $14,000 mark, which to me is what I would be comfortable dishing out for a watch like this, a neo vintage 16710. Maybe the 17,000 is if you have like a full kit with a pristine bezel, then it could command a price like that. But anyways, guys, that's gonna wrap it up for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that was informative for you to look at what the prices are now, for the quality that you can get. I think the one with the black bezel from the States, with all the greenery going on in the background, is probably the best package that I've seen today because it just hasn't been polished into oblivion. I have a feeling that if I try to check the listing again next week, it probably will be gone by then. It's just priced so well compared to all the other listings out there right now. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.